Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Simnaya. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. I came across a video from this man talking about how Black history is under attack. I am not sure if this is new to my people. My people knew right from time that Black history has been under attack all time, all day. But I love the fact that you are reminding your own people that they are the ones attacking it because Black people are not the ones attacking history. Black people wake up every day. I don't know how history changes. History doesn't change, it's constant. What people experience cannot change, it is constant. But we wake up every day to different stories that sometimes they lived in the mansion, other days they live in plantation. Now the one that they've been doing is looking for a way to say that they united them when they found out that slavery wasn't good and they lived happily ever after. What kind of lie is this? And you people look Black people in the face and continue to lie. When we talk about savages, we know who they are. Let's get into this video.
Hey everybody, Professor Moore here. So the reason why I put so much effort into researching and teaching the history of slavery and white supremacy is because that history is currently under attack by an organized conservative movement that is actively trying to make sure that Americans never know the real history of their country. For a long time, there has been an effort to whitewash and erase the history of slavery. And we can really see that if we look at American textbooks that have been used in middle schools and high schools. For decades, studies have shown that American textbooks routinely falsify, downplay, and distort the reality of slavery. For example, some textbooks were found to refer to enslaved people as workers or immigrants. And I think everybody can see why this is ridiculous and dangerous. Workers have agency. Workers can choose whether or not they go to work. Workers get paid for their labor. Immigrants have agency. They choose to go to another country. They are not kidnapped and then forced into enslavement. Some textbooks in Texas have been found to include extended discussions about how not all slaves were unhappy, about how some enslaved people actually enjoyed their enslavement. This racist trope of the happy slave can be seen in children's books like this, A Birthday Cake for George Washington, which features enslaved people on the cover who are smiling and happy and completely content with their life. And luckily, this book was pulled from the shelves. But can you imagine the damage this would do to a young child that's just learning how to read, and this is the image they're getting of slavery, the first image they're getting, this image of the happy slave? Anytime there's been a push to talk about slavery more in the classroom or teach a more accurate history of slavery, there is always pushback from Republicans. For example, in 2019, the New York Times released the 1619 Project, and one of the fundamental goals of that project was to get students in American classrooms to be talking about slavery more and to have a more accurate understanding of this history. And as soon as American teachers started bringing the 1619 Project into the classroom, Republican lawmakers across the country started issuing bills to ban the teaching of 1619. They even went as far as to try to deny funding to any schools that taught the 1619 Project. Now, even though there are some issues with some of the topics that are discussed in the essays and articles associated with the 1619 Project, I still fundamentally believe in the main mission of the project. We need to be talking about slavery more, especially to our students, and we need to be having a more accurate discussion about the reality of what slavery really was. And the reason we need to be having that conversation is because this history is always under attack. For example, after the 1619 Project got started in 2019, in 2020, President Trump started his own 1776 Commission. The 1776 Commission was designed as a complete overhaul of how American history is taught in public schools. And when Trump announced the 1776 Commission, he said that this was going to be patriotic, pro-America education. He said that the 1776 Commission will be a pro-American curriculum that will encourage educators to teach our children about the miracle of American history and show them that America is the most fair, equal, and prosperous nation in human history. The 1776 Commission was going to introduce students to slavery, but they were going to downplay it. It wasn't going to be part of the main narrative. They were also going to get rid of mentioning anything about the violence that was committed by European and American colonists against indigenous peoples. Even though when Biden won the presidency, one of the first things he did was issue an executive order to cancel the 1776 Commission, there are still states across the country that are trying to implement exactly what Trump was going for, a pro-America patriotic education that completely distorts, downplays, and erases the reality of slavery. In Tennessee, conservative lawmakers have gone after the history of slavery by attacking critical race theory, which is essentially just critically analyzing how race has shaped American history, not so much of a theory as much as a fact. In Texas and Oklahoma, Republican lawmakers have also issued bills and laws attacking the teaching of history and trying to downplay the reality and the brutality of this system. Florida has been at the forefront of this effort to distort and erase the real history of slavery. They've tried teaching that there were actually positive benefits to slavery. And they've also tried to get rid of any discussion of slavery that would make any white students in the classroom uncomfortable. But here's the thing, history shouldn't be comfortable. We should feel uncomfortable when confronted with this history of slavery and white supremacy. History should not be easy. History is hard. History is not about confirming what you think or making yourself feel better. History is about being open to learning and discovering new information and even challenging everything that you thought you knew. I agree with historian Hassan Kwame Jeffries, who said, "Slavery is hard history. It's hard to comprehend the inhumanity that defined it. It is hard to discuss the violence that sustained it. It is hard to teach the ideology of white supremacy that justified it. And it is hard to learn about those who abided it. We, the people, have a deep-seated aversion to hard history because we are uncomfortable with the implications it raises about the past as well as the present." Conservatives don't want us to know the true history of slavery because once you start engaging with this material, you can never look at American history the same ever again. And more importantly, once you start learning this real history, you start making connections between the past and the present, and we start seeing the way that white supremacy and slavery still shapes and impacts the world that we live in today. Conservatives are trying to erase the real history of slavery to create and control a new narrative, and we know what that narrative is. Slavery wasn't that bad. Not all enslaved people were unhappy. You know what? It wasn't even really slavery. Enslaved people were really workers. They were immigrants. That's the narrative that they want to promote, and it's a lie. That's why it is the responsibility of all history teachers and professors to research and learn the real history of slavery and white supremacy. It's hard history, but good history is never easy.
Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not just any mirror, but one that shows not one reflection, but two. One is the self you know, the person you live with every day. The other, the distorted image shaped by a society that sees you only through the lens of your skin. This is the burden of double consciousness. W.E.B. Du Bois, the towering scholar, historian, and soul of a generation, gave voice to this inner conflict in his 1903 masterpiece, The Souls of Black Folk. He wrote, "It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others." What Du Bois illuminated was not just an identity crisis, it was a spiritual fracture, a psychological balancing act forced upon Black people in America to be both Black and American, in a country that denied the full humanity of both. To be told you are free, yet to be treated as less, to be raised on the promises of democracy, while living under the shadow of racial hierarchy. Double consciousness is not confusion. It is clarity, forced to split. It is the awareness of how you're seen versus how you know yourself to be. It is the tightrope walk of existing in a society where your body is politicized before your name is even known. It is code switching in boardrooms. It is armor worn in classrooms. It is shrinking and expanding, hiding and shining, often all at the same breath. Du Bois did not merely describe a condition, he diagnosed a nation. He gave language to the spiritual violence inflicted by white supremacy. He showed that racism isn't only brutality and chains, it is a quiet thief that tries to steal how Black people see themselves. And yet, in this fractured vision, Du Bois also saw something else: resilience, the power of Black folks to forge identity not through a single lens, but through a deep, dual vision, a gift of seeing more, feeling more, and surviving more than any system ever expected. Double consciousness isn't a weakness. It's a survival strategy, a defiant declaration. I am not what you say I am. I am who I know myself to be. So when we remember Du Bois, we don't just remember a scholar. We remember a mirror breaker, a truth teller, and in every Black person navigating the world with grace and rage, joy, pain, love, and resistance, his theories live on. Because the struggle for wholeness is still being fought, and the double consciousness Du Bois described, it still echoes in every footstep forward. I love you, Black man. I love you, Black woman. Knowledge is power. Power to the people.
This is all I got from this video. A very big shout out to Melody Angel. She is really amazing. And also shout out to the white man who also brought out the other video talking about how Black history is under attack. You and I know that this is not, Black history being under attack is nothing new to a Black person, because you know it. Allah also love the fact that he is also calling his people and telling them that you all are the ones attacking it. Because each time I look at Black history and the things that I've been able to learn so far about Black history, all I can say is that how come people that were so great that they, at some point, their biggest flex was the fact that, they were able to enslave people that look like me. That was a big flex. They were happy. It was great, It's all us. And then the same people all of a sudden are no longer proud of what they did to my own people. And now they want it to all die. They want everything to be closed, ban all the books, ban everything that concerns their history, shut it down. How do you even think that it is possible to shut down somebody's history? Do you know what it means? They can try, but it's not possible, because I understand that People from their own side doesn't know anything about history except for some, which are few. Why? Because they don't want to teach the real thing in classes. Why are they not teaching the real thing? Because what they tell them in the classroom is that not all slaves were unhappy. Shut up. Shut up. Do you know what it means to travel how many distance to pick people, brought them to? That alone is the worst. Like, and it's not even the worst, but that alone is a huge trauma on its own. And now you are telling your people that it's not how we say it. How are we saying it? How are Black people saying it? Black people are saying what happened to them, their experiences, and you are telling them that that is not their experience. Who are you to tell people their experience when you were not the one that experienced it? You know, I remember one Ukrainian woman, she's also on TikTok here. She was saying that majority, because she lived in Ukraine at some point, they moved to United States and all that. She said that in her school, when she was in Ukraine, they never taught them all the things that she has learned so far from Black people. That they told them that, you know, that yes, there was something like slavery, but when they found out that it was not okay, they stopped it and reunited everybody, and everybody lived happily ever after. You united them, and now, but we have African people, the African Americans, right? And you say you united them. If you had united them, some would have been Nigerians, some would have been Cameroonian, some would have been Ghanaians, some would have been people from other places. And you are lying, telling them that you united them and they live happily ever after. What kind of lie is all this? What kind of lie? And the fact that they are teaching all these things in school, no lies. I am not lying to you, because I am sure you may have seen videos that they say it was better to be alive than being, it's better to be slave than being unalive. Look at where these people have, where they have taken my people to. And then the one that broke out sometime was slavery was beneficial to slaves. How? That the skills, that they learn skills. And I ask, which skills? Because so far, the people I knew they took the best from there back here. Where did they learn the skills? I will draw the curtain here. I don't want to. Bye for now.